Good day everyone and welcome back once again. Today's tutorial we will be discussing Tsotsi Tao, which commonly we know it as street language. The birth of Tsotsi Tao. South Africa is viewed to be one of the most multilingual countries in the world, recognizing 11 official languages. However, interesting, the country has a 12th unofficial language. Today, Tsotsitaal has evolved into a collection of distinct yet mutually understandable languages projected from the speaker's native language. The slang or street language that emerged from political segregation in communities and spans today in townships. Tsotsitaal, which commonly is associated with crime, is simply street speech spoken by urban youth, thereby is based on Afrikaans, Zulu, Sotho, and Xhosa, and even English. A consequence of this is that the same sentence spoken in Tsotsitaal can differ depending on the speaker. "Let's talk" can be said in Tsotsitaal as the Afrikaans phrase "Let's meet." What is even more outstanding is that all these versions of Tsotsitaal are mutually understandable. So I came up with a few Tsotsi words such as chicken murder, which is a term used to refer to an older person having a relationship with a younger person. Or girlfriend and woman nowadays are referred to as stalk or cherry or lezoti. And a young streetwise male referred to them as clever. And money nyuku zak machankura. Well, to help us understand more on the birth of Tsotsitaal and also learn new Tsotsi words, you're going to read an article that was written by Homolemo Mokai, who tells of roll-ons and magents in South Africa's widely used but unofficial language. After South Africa's first multiracial elections were held on April 27, 1994, the different political parties opted to have 11 official languages. These are English and Afrikaans, as well as 9 indigenous languages, including isiZulu, Setswana, and Tshivenda. But there's a top unofficial language which is usually used in South Africa, Tsotsitaal. That is from Afrikaans and means language. Tsotsi started off meaning a thug, hoodlum, or criminal, but it has come to mean street smart or hip. Therefore, the use of Tsotsitaal has come to be something that distinguishes supposedly worth-it township inhabitants from their cousins in the country. It is difficult to say exactly when Tsotsitaal appeared on South Africa's linguistic map, but the famous anti-apartheid activist Father Trevor Huddleston talks about it in his book Not For Your Comfort, written after he was forced to leave South Africa and abandon his mission work in Johannesburg's now demolished Sophia town in the 1960s. And South African author Alan Patron of Cry the Beloved Country fame published a book called Tsotsi in the 1950s. When Sophia town was demolished by the apartheid government and its residents forcibly moved, Tutsi were part of the resistance against this draconian measure. Ons dak nie, ons pola hier. We are not moving, we're staying put here, was their slogan. Tsotsitaal probably developed as more and more black folk became urbanized in the late 1940s, early 1950s, and wanted to show that they were one up on their rural kith and kin. When one greets another person in Tsotsitaal, one says "Eta", be it in the morning, afternoon, or at night. This is a combination of the English "hey" and "ta", hence the greeting means "hey, thank you". The other part response is that saying "Heta", one might also greet by asking "who's that", which is a combination of the Afrikaans "who" meaning how, and the English "is it", "who's that", thus means how is it. If the other party says grand, sharp, or mnga, you should know everything is fine with him or her. But if it says blind, as in visually impaired, you should know things are not looking right. A number of big companies of Africa have come to realize the high regard in which Tsotsi style is held by blacks, and have tried to fashion their marketing strategies accordingly. For instance, manufacturers of the razor blade menorah capitalize on the fact that when one wants to indicate to others that everything is wild in Tsotsi style, you show the thumbs up and say sharp. So the advert for the blade is some of these thumbs up and reads sharp. On the other hand, manufacturers of the well-known liniment zambak call it the real makoya. Makoya is started off with genuine and is obviously deriving the English the real McCoy. When Pepsi-Cola returned to South Africa after it had disinvested during the days of apartheid, Coca-Cola tried to retain its popularity by setting up billboards all over the country, extolling its product as Makoya Coca-Cola, the real thing Coke in Tsotsitaal. Well, here are some Tsotsitaal expressions and their origins. Jewish, pronounced as Jewish, refers to clothes. More specifically, refers to fashionable clothes. It is derived from Jewish on account of the fact that in the 50s most elite outfitters were Jewish. Majens, or Tsotsis, with its township boys who live by their wits, stealing cars, jewelry, etc. The term comes from the gentleman because the Majens have a lot of money and can afford to be flashy dresses like gentlemen. To offend us, to stab someone with a knife. This expression came into being after Dimitri Offenders, a cook in the South African Parliament, stabbed Prime Minister H. Alfred Root to death with a knife in 1966. Roll on, sort it out for a mistress, because the man puts her, and, her under his armpit, so to speak, like a roll-on deodorant. But nowadays, a mistress refer to them as makwapeni, right? So, 16 Bulb, a young Hebrew woman, named after the powerful Volkswagen 16 Valve Golf when it came onto the market in the 1980s, and Cellular, a 250 milliliter flat bottle of brandy. This is named after a cellular phone as shrewd football fans hide it on their person as they enter stadiums when liquor is prohibited. Right. So an activity has been provided here. So yes, as you can see, well, how we're going to answer this is that we're going to go back into the article and see how the word has been used in a sentence. Then that way it will help us to answer. Language in paragraph 2. Oh, here it is. But there is a 12th unofficial language which is widely used in South Africa. Right, now let's go back. So we have four options. The system of human expression using words, or a particular system of words used by a nation or people, or a particular style or manner of expression, or the shocking words or phrases. Definitely we know it's not shocking words or phrases, because in the passage it says a language which is mostly used in South Africa. So it is definitely B, because South Africa is a nation, right? And the language is used by people. Good. Moving on. Abandon in paragraph 5. Abandon. There it is. It is difficult to say exactly when Tsotsitaal appeared on South Africa's linguistic map, but the famous anti-apartheid activist Father Trevor Huddleston talked about it in his book Not for Comfort after he was forced to leave South Africa and abandon his mission work in Johannesburg, now demolished Sophiatown, in the 1960s. He was forced to leave South Africa and abandon his mission work in Johannesburg. Right, let's go see. Abandon is it to allow oneself to be completely controlled by someone? No. To give something up without finishing it, or to live completely and forever, or to bring an end to. To abandon is the same as to neglect, to give something up without finishing it. Demolished, paragraph 6. When Sophiatown was demolished by the apartheid government, so demolished means to destroy or to damage, right? As you can understand by the way it is used in the sentence. Where it is to destroy completely, so it is B. Response, paragraph 8. Response. The other party's response is the same hater. Meaning, okay, let's start with when one gives another person down, one says hater, be it in the morning, afternoon, or at night. This is a combination of the English hey and ta, hence the greeting means hey, thank you. The other party's response, meaning when the other party replies, the reply of the second person, right? Well, it is a reply, the response. To regard, in paragraph 11, regard. A number of big companies in South Africa have come to realize the high regard in which Tsotsitaal is held by blacks and have tried to fashion their marketing strategies accordingly. High regard meaning, it's taken to high esteem, in high consideration, So yes, here is respect or esteem. So that brings us to the end of our tutorial. I hope that it was very interesting to you guys as it was to me, and I hope that you learned a lot from it. Done with our next tutorial. Thank you. Goodbye.